Hello, everybody. Welcome to week 11. Can you believe we're closing in? The end of this is in sight. We've got about 5 or 6 more weeks to go. I hope that you're all doing well. It was a crazy week that we had, what with the fires and all. But everybody seems to be faring okay. So that's great based on what I've heard or not heard from you. So what do we got coming up? We have your concert report coming up just around the corner. So if you haven't started working on that, I think you have not this week, but the next week to get that done. And I do have a lighter module next week just to give a little extra time, but I would start thinking about it, if not working on it. The sooner it's in, the sooner you don't have to worry about it. You can turn it in anytime now. And then it's the normal week, right? So you've got your normal one module week. Enjoy it, because I know we've got at least one more 2-module down the line. But this is a 1-module week. And this week you're learning about progressive rock. So you've learned about jazz rock, which is the basically where you have rock music that is drawing on jazz influences. You had country rock, where you have rock music that is drawing on country influences. And this week you're going to learn about progressive rock. Now, progressive rock is a little wider in terms of what it covers, but basically what you have is rock music that is drawing on the influences of classical music or experimental music, different things like that. So the author divides this up into 3 main categories, where you have music that is influenced by classical orchestration. So it wouldn't be just like having strings like you have in Stand By Me or something like that, but maybe where there's an actual orchestra. So a great example of that's with the Moody Blues. You'll hear that. Make sure you listen through to the end. You have music where it's more influenced by classical forms. So I don't go into a whole lot of detail about song forms, but in rock music, the forms are pretty simple. You got a verse, you got a chorus, the verse tells the story, the chorus repeats the main point. Maybe you'll have a bridge, which is a little different perspective. And they're pretty straightforward. So you start listening to songs and you hear verse, chorus, verse, chorus. In the old days, they usually had a different chord progression between the verses and the choruses. Nowadays in pop music, which is a little weaker, I would say, in some ways than it's been in the past, it's very common to have music that doesn't change from the verse to the chorus. And there's just a little different sound effect, or what we call a hook or something like that in there. Anyway, so what you have in this style of music is these artists. These were typically artists that were classically trained. Many of them could read and write music, which is rare in rock music and pop music. Most can't. I'd say 98% of musicians in rock and pop can't read music. And that's okay. Jimi Hendrix is one of the greatest musicians of all time, but couldn't read a note. So because they've had this classical training, they're like, well, there are other ways to put music. So let's look at classical examples in terms of the suite and different forms, and let's try to put together that way. So then you start getting bands like Yes and Genesis and folks like that, King Crimson. And so you have that style of music. Then you have music that are influenced, or artists that are influenced by what we call experimental or avant-garde terms. The avant-garde is actually a military term that means the advanced guard. And in the arts, whether that's visual or music or whatever, it means people that they're out at the forefront. They're pushing the envelope. They're trying to take things into new directions. And so they're influenced by different sonic worlds. So a great example of that would be Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd definitely was sort of influenced by new sounds. They started off as a blues band, like almost everybody did back in the day, but then they started to become very experimental, especially with Syd Barrett's LSD influences. And so you have this, a more recent version of that would be Radiohead, which I know has been around for a while as well. But if you're familiar with things like OK Kid, OK Computer, Kid A, things like that, then you'll know kind of what I'm talking about. They're like, hey, we're not going to make music the traditional way. We're not going after pop songs. We're going after a different kind of experience. And a lot of this is, we've talked about the influence of the Beatles. The Beatles, by moving rock music forward from this sort of teenage pop music to very sophisticated listening experiences with things like Sgt. Pepper's, all of a sudden it opens up a whole new way of approaching music, because you get some bands and artists that are like, I don't want to make pop songs. I don't want to make 3-minute songs. In fact, Pink Floyd was very adamant that they didn't want songs released as singles. They created an album to be listened to as an album, and that was that. They didn't want it to be taken out, although sometimes it did. So you have all of that. And then the chapter also includes glam rock. We'll hear about, and sometimes you hear the term progressive rock, art rock, glam rock. There's some differences that are in there. But you're going to learn about artists like Queen and Lou Reed and people like that were dealing with sort of the grittier side of the world. And so you're going to get some other perspectives there. And then you're going to get these bands that sort of bridge across, like Rush, that has definite progressive influences, but they also are drawing straight from hard rock too. So they're drawing from Led Zeppelin, but they're also drawing from Yes and King Crimson and bands like that. So you're going to learn about some bands and things that aren't mentioned in the book. They're going to be in the online materials. So please make sure that you are going through all of those. I would say all in all, things are going really well. I would like to point out, again, just sort of discussions. Don't forget your replies. Some people are not doing the discussions, some aren't doing the replies. Those are good points there that are going to add up and become important at the end. We're also going to see your reflection and your observation. I'm still getting some folks that aren't posting the topic at the top. I ask you to do this for you more than for me, so that you can read it one last time and go, hey, does this apply to what I'm writing? Does this actually matter? Am I answering the questions I'm being asked? So I want you to do great in the class. I hope this is helpful. You're going to have the quiz coming up. Again, you get that report coming down the line. So that's it. We just passed through time change and all of that. So just out of curiosity to see how many of you watch this, what is your favorite Halloween movie? So reply. Not doing extra credit this time. Just want to see if you're watching this. So if you watch this all the way to the end, just tell me, what's your favorite, Halloween movies or cartoon? That's it for now. Take good care. Have a great week, everybody. Welcome to November. And we'll see you soon. Bye.